The sound of seawater pounding against the hull grew louder and more urgent. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod and stared at the black float drifting on the surface. 3 days ago, 90% of the world's land had been swallowed by the ocean. Cities had become ruins. Only the upper halves of skyscrapers remained above the waves. Countless survivors crowded onto broken ships, fighting desperately over a bottle of fresh water or a piece of compressed food. Everyone was searching for resources. Some people managed to fish up broken shoes. Some found rotten wood in crates. Some had even dragged corpses out of the sea. But today, I had already waited 6 hours with nothing. I had only one piece of compressed food left. My fresh water would last for one more day. If I gained nothing today, I would become another floating corpse drifting across the ocean. One last try. I glanced at the old fishing rod in my hand. I had found it beside a sunken ship. It was as ordinary as it could get. A cracked wooden handle, a rusty metal reel. Even the fishing line showed signs that it might snap at any moment. Just as I was about to pull the rod back, a cold mechanical voice suddenly echoed inside my mind. Host detected. Conditions met. Doomsday fishing system activating. My movement froze. I frowned. An illusion? Had several sleepless nights and constant hunger finally damaged my brain? The next second, the voice sounded again. Binding successful. Beginner reward received. Divine fishing rod. First fishing success rate increased. I lowered my head and looked at the fishing rod in my hand. The broken wooden handle began to change. The cracks disappeared. The rust covering the metal reel faded away. The entire fishing rod released an indescribable sense of power and quality. I stood there in silence for several seconds. After the apocalypse began, I had witnessed too many impossible things. The sudden rise of the oceans, the mutation of animals, the abnormal changes in the sky. Compared with those events, what happened before my eyes was surprisingly easy to accept. This world had already gone insane. Having an extra system was hardly the craziest thing anymore. I took a deep breath and cast the hook back into the sea. Don't disappoint me. The moment my words fell, the calm ocean surface suddenly rippled. The float sank rapidly. My arm tightened instantly. A tremendous force pulled from beneath the water. This wasn't an ordinary fish. I immediately adjusted my posture and controlled the fishing line. Before the apocalypse, fishing had been my hobby. It was only a hobby, but years of experience had taught me one thing. When dealing with a huge catch, never panic. The more impatient you became, the easier the line would break. The sea began to churn. The next moment, a massive shadow swept beneath the water. My heartbeat accelerated. This wasn't a fish. At least, not an ordinary one. After the apocalypse, the creatures in the ocean had undergone massive changes. Many animals that were once harmless had become extremely aggressive. Someone had once tried to hunt a mutated shark. The result? The entire ship was dragged into the depths of the ocean. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. Come on, let me see what you really are. The fishing line suddenly stretched straight. A terrifying pulling force surged through it. My body was dragged forward by a step. Just when I was about to lose control, another notification appeared in my mind. Target detected. Analyzing. Target: deep-sea mutated silver scale fish. Level: rare. Value assessment: extremely high. Exchangeable resources: fresh water, food, enhancement materials. My eyes changed. Rare? What did that mean? In this world, even ordinary food was already worth a fortune, not to mention rare resources. I gritted my teeth and began slowly pulling in the line. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour later. The surface of the ocean exploded. A massive silver fish, nearly 2 meters long, burst out of the water. It thrashed violently. I seized the opportunity and quickly wrapped a spare rope around its body. Boom! The giant fish crashed heavily onto the deck. I breathed heavily while staring at my prize. The next moment, the system notification appeared. First successful fishing completed. Reward unlocked. Obtained. Advanced water purification device. Obtained. Reinforced ala material. Obtained. Genetic enhancement serum fragment. My breathing stopped for a moment. A water purification device? Reinforced materials? And genetic enhancement serum? In the apocalypse, any one of these items would be enough to drive survivors crazy. I looked at the silver scale fish. The system hadn't directly given me supplies. Instead, it rewarded me through fishing. That meant, as long as I kept fishing, I could continue becoming stronger. Before I could carefully examine my rewards, The sound of an engine suddenly came from the distance. My expression changed. Someone was coming. A modified speedboat quickly approached across the ocean. Several men stood at the bow. The man leading them wore a black waterproof suit and held a gun in his hand. Brother, looks like you've had quite some luck. That huge mutated fish is too much for one person to eat, the man shouted with a smile. I didn't answer. During these 3 days of apocalypse, I had seen too many people like this. They talked about cooperation, but the next second, they could kill you and steal your resources. The speedboat moved closer. The man jumped onto my ship. He looked at the silver scale fish on my deck. The greed in his eyes was impossible to hide. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Han Lai. Several survivor fleets nearby know me. I held my fishing rod and remained silent. Han Lai looked at me. You probably haven't survived for very long. Have you? This area isn't somewhere a newcomer like you can stay. Hand over the fish. And I can protect you. I smiled slightly. Protect me? Han Lai nodded. That's right. In this world, a single person won't survive for long. Join us. You'll have food, ships, and a safe place. His voice sounded sincere. If this had been before the apocalypse, I might have believed him, but after experiencing the end of the world, the way I judged people had changed. Someone who truly wanted to help you wouldn't stare at your resources the moment they arrived. I looked at his hand. The gun barrel had never left my direction. Your protection is pointing a gun at me? The smile on Han Lai's face faded slightly. Young man, don't misunderstand. It's just a habit. I glanced at the people behind him. 6 people. Average equipment. An ordinary speedboat. No obvious advantage. If this had happened before, I might have chosen to compromise. But now, I had the system. I had the divine fishing rod. I didn't need to rely on anyone. The fish isn't yours. I spoke calmly. Han Lai narrowed his eyes. Do you know the consequences of rejecting me? I raised my fishing rod. Try me. The air instantly became silent. Han Lai stared at me. After several seconds, he suddenly laughed. Interesting. Since the apocalypse began, not many people have dared to speak to me like that. Let's see how long you can keep that confidence. After saying that, he turned around and prepared to leave. But at that moment, the system suddenly sounded. Warning. High-value target detected. Target carries special item. Recommendation. Complete fishing operation. I froze. A special item? Who was the target? I looked at Han Lai, who was walking away. The location indicated by the system was pointing toward his boat. My eyes moved to the back of the speedboat. There was a black metal box placed there. Han Lai seemed to notice my gaze. He suddenly turned around. Our eyes met. For the first time, his expression changed. What are you looking at? I didn't answer, because at that moment, I was certain Han Lai was hiding a secret, and my next fishing target might be the thing he had brought with him. The sea wind swept across the deck. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. The true game of the apocalypse had only just begun. Han Lai's speedboat gradually disappeared into the distance. I stood on the deck, but I didn't chase after him. Right now, I still didn't know Han Lai's true background. Nor did I know what exactly was inside that black metal box. Acting recklessly would only expose my abilities. After the apocalypse, the most dangerous thing was never the monsters in the ocean. It was human nature. I lowered my head and looked at my fishing rod. The system's warning had been very clear. Han Lai was carrying a special item, but the fishing system hadn't demanded that I act immediately. That meant, at least for now, I still had time. I dragged the silver scale fish into the cabin. This mutated fish was nearly 2 meters long. The silver scales covering its body were incredibly tough. Ordinary knives couldn't even cut through them. The system quickly gave me a notification. Rare mutated creature detected. Special decomposition available. Proceed with decomposition? I chose confirm. The next second, a faint glow appeared over the silver scale fish. A few seconds later, the enormous body disappeared. In its place were neatly arranged supplies. Obtained. Advanced fish meat. Obtained. Mutated scales. Obtained. Biological energy core. I picked up the fist-sized crystal. The core was light blue, and something inside seemed to flow like liquid. The system introduction appeared. Biological energy core. Can be used to strengthen equipment or assist human evolution. My expression became serious. Human evolution. Those words carried a meaning I understood clearly. After the apocalypse, Countless survivors had tried dangerous methods to increase their strength. Some consumed the flesh and blood of mutated creatures. Their bodies eventually lost control. Some injected unknown substances. They turned into monsters that had lost their minds. If the system provided a safe method of enhancement, then the advantage I possessed would far surpass everyone else. I carefully stored the energy core. Right now, the most important thing was confirming one thing. Could the system's rewards truly be obtained continuously? I sat back down beside the ship. The ocean had returned to calm. Under normal circumstances, the chance of catching another rare creature after just catching one was extremely low. But I had the system. I wanted to know where my limits were. The hook was cast into the sea again. Time slowly passed. Half an hour. 1 hour. The float remained completely still. I didn't panic. Fishing required patience. Survival was the same. Just as I was about to change positions, the fishing rod suddenly trembled slightly. It wasn't the violent pull from before. It felt more like something had touched the hook. I slowly began pulling the line. A black box emerged from the seawater. The box was small, only about the size of an ordinary suitcase. But the moment it was pulled onto the deck, the system notification appeared. Special resource box discovered. Level advanced. My heartbeat accelerated, not because of the box itself, but because of the system's evaluation. Advanced. I opened the box. There was no gold, no jewelry, only a silver-white metal plate, and an old chip. I picked up the chip. The system immediately responded. Unknown technology data detected. Analyzing. Analysis complete. Data name: Ocean Ecological Restoration Project. My expression gradually became serious. Ocean Ecological Restoration Project? What was this? Why was it connected to the apocalypse? I continued examining the data. The records contained several pieces of information. 10 years ago, the global marine environment had begun to deteriorate. Countries around the world jointly launched a deep-sea research project. They attempted to use advanced biological technology to restore ocean ecosystems. But something went wrong during the experiments. A large number of deep-sea creatures mutated. The marine environment began spiraling out of control. Eventually, it triggered a global tsunami. After reading everything, I remained silent. So this disaster had not happened suddenly. Someone had discovered the problem long ago. But they didn't stop. Instead, they continued their research. I tightened my grip on the chip. Behind this world, there was a massive hidden secret. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from the distance. Is anyone there? I looked up. A small rescue boat was approaching. There were 2 people inside. 1 man, 1 woman. The woman looked pale, and there was an obvious wound on her arm. The man was desperately rowing. When he saw my ship, hope appeared in his eyes. Brother, please help us. We mean no harm. I didn't approach immediately. Instead, I remained cautious. What happened? The man gasped for breath. We encountered a mutated sea beast. Our ship was destroyed. My friend is injured and needs medicine. I looked at the woman. Although her face was pale, she was still conscious. What is your name? The man answered. Chen Feng. The woman weakly said. Su Qing. Hearing those names, I froze for a moment. The system suddenly displayed a notification. High-value survivor detected. Target: Su Qing. Potential occupation: marine research expert. My eyes changed slightly. A researcher? After the apocalypse? What was the rarest thing? Not weapons, not ships, knowledge. A person who truly understood the changes happening in the ocean was priceless. I opened the ship's entrance. Come aboard. Chen Feng clearly relaxed. He helped Su Qing onto my ship. The moment they stepped onto the deck, Chen Feng noticed the supplies nearby, especially the advanced water purification device. His expression changed uncontrollably. Where did you get this? I looked at him. Found it. The corner of Chen Feng's mouth twitched. He obviously didn't believe me. But he didn't ask further. That earned him some respect from me. A truly smart person knew not to pry into other people's secrets. Su Qing leaned inside the cabin and checked her wound. Your ship has been modified? I shook my head. No. She looked at my fishing rod. Her gaze stayed there for several seconds. Then where did your resources come from? I didn't answer. Su Qing didn't continue asking. She simply said softly, the ocean is changing faster and faster. Without enough resources, humanity won't last long. I know some things. I looked at her. What things? Su Qing was silent for a moment. Then she said, this disaster may not be over yet. The truly dangerous things are still in the deep sea. Those words reminded me of the chip I had just obtained. The Ocean Ecological Restoration Project. The deep sea experiments. The mutated creatures. All the clues seemed to point toward the same place. The deep sea. At that moment, new shadows appeared in the distance. More than one ship. Chen Feng's expression instantly changed. Something's wrong. They're here. I stood up. Who? Chen Feng looked toward the approaching ships. His voice became serious. The Black Tide Alliance. They specialize in robbing survivors. Resources? Their leader is called Zhao Tianheng. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. Zhao Tianheng. It was the first time I had heard that name, but for some reason, I had a feeling this person would eventually cross paths with me, and it would not be an ordinary encounter. The ships in the distance continued approaching. People on the decks raised their weapons. My hand rested on the fishing rod. For the first time, I was actually looking forward to a battle, because I knew, starting today, I was no longer a survivor waiting helplessly for death. The black speedboat stopped less than 20 meters away from my ship. The roar of the engine drowned out the sound of the waves. More than a dozen people stood on the deck. They carried various weapons, modified firearms, homemade blades. At the front stood a man wearing dark gray combat gear. A scar stretched from his brow down to the corner of his eye. He didn't rush forward. He simply stared at me from across the water. You are Lin Yuan? The man spoke. His voice was deep and cold. I held the fishing rod but didn't answer. Chen Feng's expression became unpleasant. He is Zhao Tianheng. I nodded. The leader of the Black Tide Alliance. I finally met him. Zhao Tianheng's eyes swept across my ship, then stopped on Su Qing. Dr. Su. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Su Qing sat inside the cabin. Her expression changed slightly. Zhao Tianheng. You're still doing those things? Zhao Tianheng laughed. What things? The apocalypse has arrived. All the old rules are over. Now, whoever controls resources controls the right to survive. Su Qing's eyes turned cold. You're just taking advantage of chaos to steal from others. Zhao Tianheng didn't become angry. Instead, he calmly replied, Stealing? I'm simply taking what belongs to the strong. I looked at him. This man was similar to Han Lai. But there was a difference. Han Lai was like a blade, sharp and direct. Zhao Tianheng was more like a beast wearing a mask of reason. Tell me, what do you want? Zhao Tianheng looked at me. Simple. Join the Black Tide Alliance. I can protect your ship. I can provide channels for resources. In this ocean, you will survive safely. I smiled. What is the condition? Zhao Tianheng smiled back. Smart. Your fishing rod. The atmosphere instantly froze. Chen Feng's expression changed. Su Qing also looked at me. My heart sank. He knew. Zhao Tianheng knew there was something wrong with my fishing rod. How did you know? I asked. Zhao Tianheng didn't answer. Instead, he glanced into the distance. After Han Lai returned, he told me something interesting. He said a normal survivor used a broken fishing rod to catch a rare mutated fish, and that same person somehow possessed impossible resources. Lin Yuan, in the apocalypse, miracles are rare. Every miracle has value. I stared at him. So after leaving, Han Lai hadn't given up. He had reported everything to Zhao Tianheng. This man was more cautious than I expected. Zhao Tianheng continued, Hand over the fishing rod. I guarantee your safety and the safety of your friends. I looked at Chen Feng, then at Su Qing. Neither of them spoke. But I knew, they were waiting for my decision. I slowly stood up. What if I refuse? The smile disappeared from Zhao Tianheng's face. Then that would be unfortunate. The waves on the ocean are dangerous. Some ships simply cannot survive for long. The moment he finished speaking, the people behind him raised their weapons. The atmosphere became tense. Chen Feng gritted his teeth. Lin Yuan, there are too many of them. I knew. A direct fight now would give us little chance. But that didn't mean I would hand over the fishing rod. This was the foundation of my survival, and the key to changing the future. Just as both sides were locked in a standoff, the system suddenly sounded. Enemy vessel detected. Potential fishing target discovered. Target: Black Tide Transport Ship Energy Core. Value: rare. My eyes narrowed. Energy Core? Why could Zhao Tianheng's fleet operate on the ocean for so long? The answer was right there. I looked at the large transport ship behind Zhao Tianheng's fleet. That ship had remained in the back the entire time. It looked ordinary, but the system had already locked onto it. That meant, if I could obtain that item, my plan to build an ocean base could truly begin. Zhao Tianheng saw that I remained silent. He thought I was hesitating. Have you made your decision? I raised my head. Yes, I've decided. My answer is, get lost. Zhao Tianheng's expression instantly turned cold. Do you know what you're saying? Yes. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. I know you want to take what belongs to me. I know you think your numbers give you the advantage. But you made one mistake. Zhao Tianheng frowned. What mistake? I looked directly at him. You think I'm just an ordinary survivor. The next second, I suddenly swung the fishing rod, not toward Zhao Tianheng, but toward the distant transport ship. Everyone froze. Even Chen Feng didn't react in time. Lin Yuan, what are you doing? The hook cut across the surface of the ocean. It landed accurately near the transport ship. Zhao Tianheng's expression changed instantly. Stop him! Several people immediately rushed toward the side of the ship. But it was already too late. The fishing line suddenly tightened. The system notification appeared. Target locked successfully. Beginning fishing process. The ocean surface began to churn violently. For the first time, a shocked expression appeared on Zhao Tianheng's face. Because he realized something. My fishing line was not connected to an ordinary object. It was pulling something out from inside his transport ship. Open fire! Zhao Tianheng roared. Gunshots erupted. Chen Feng immediately stepped in front of Su Qing. Get down! Bullets struck the deck. I didn't move, because the system had already entered the fishing process. Once interrupted, the opportunity would be lost. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, the ocean began forming a massive whirlpool. Everyone stopped. For the first time, they witnessed something impossible. The next moment, a silver light burst out from the sea. A metal container was dragged upward by the fishing line. It slammed heavily onto my deck. The system notification sounded. Fishing successful. Obtained. Deep Sea Energy Core. Obtained. Basic Base Construction Module. Obtained. Reinforced alloy plates. Zhao Tianheng stared at the container. His expression changed completely. Greed, shock, and a trace of fear. Because he understood. This was no longer an ordinary resource. This was something capable of changing the balance of power between survivor factions. I opened the container. Inside was a blue energy crystal the size of a fist. The system information appeared. Deep Sea Energy Core. Provides continuous energy supply for large-scale equipment. I lifted my head, looking at Zhao Tianheng. Your item now belongs to me. Zhao Tianheng's face darkened. But he didn't continue attacking. Instead, he slowly stepped back. Lin Yuan, you will regret the choice you made today. I watched his ships leave. I didn't respond. Because I knew, after today, the Black Tide Alliance would never see me as an ordinary survivor again. And I finally possessed the first core resource needed to build my own power. Back inside the cabin, Chen Feng looked at the energy core in my hand. He gave a bitter smile. I finally believe it now. You weren't just lucky. You really do have a secret. I looked at him. Are you afraid? Chen Feng was stunned. Then he laughed. The apocalypse has already arrived. What else is there to fear? If you really can lead people to survive, then I'm willing to take that gamble with you. Beside him, Su Qing remained silent for a long time, then suddenly spoke. Lin Yuan, there is something I have to tell you. I looked at her. What? She took out a perfectly preserved photograph. The picture showed a massive deep-sea research facility. This place may be connected to your fishing rod, and it may also be connected to this ocean disaster. I took the photograph. On the back, there was a line of words. Deep Sea Zero Project. Seeing those words, my heart sank for the first time, because I realized the fishing rod I obtained might only be the beginning. The true secret was hidden deeper beneath the ocean. I stared at the words on the photograph for a long time. Deep Sea Zero Project. I didn't know what this project represented, but judging from Su Qing's and Zhao Tianheng's reactions, this was definitely not an ordinary research program. I turned the photograph over. There was another thing written on the back. A set of coordinates. The markings had already become slightly blurred. Su Qing watched my movements and spoke softly. I've seen these coordinates before. I looked up at her. Where? Su Qing was silent for several seconds, as if she was organizing her memories. The Ocean Research Institute. I worked there before the apocalypse. The Deep Sea Zero project was classified as the highest level research program. Only a few people were allowed to participate, and the information access level was extremely restricted. Chen Feng frowned. If it was so important, why had we never heard of it before? Su Qing looked toward the distant ocean. Because this project was never made public from the beginning. They weren't researching ordinary marine environments. They were studying unknown deep-sea organisms. And a special type of energy. I lowered my head and looked at the energy core in my hand. The blue crystal emitted a faint glow. This? Su Qing nodded. Yes. This type of energy only existed as a theory back then. Researchers believed that certain deep-sea creatures contained special energy structures inside their bodies. If they could extract that energy, they could solve the global energy crisis. I listened carefully. A guess slowly formed in my mind. The ocean disaster, the mutated creatures, the deep-sea energy, the mysterious fishing rod. These things were probably connected. Do you know why the Zero Project failed? I asked. Su Qing tightened her grip on the photograph. Because they opened something they should never have opened. Chen Feng's expression changed. What do you mean? Su Qing didn't answer immediately. She looked at me. 1 month before the apocalypse, the Zero Project discovered a deep-sea ruin. Inside, they found an unknown biological sample. The research team believed it might be a life form that had never appeared on Earth before. They began studying it. And then, she stopped. The ocean started changing. The cabin fell silent. I stared at the research facility in the photograph. Then suddenly thought of a question. Why do you know all of this? Su Qing didn't avoid my gaze. Because my teacher was one of the members of the Zero Project. Shen Hanchuan. When I heard that name, my expression changed slightly. I remembered the information displayed by the system. Shen Hanchuan, marine science expert. A person who knew the truth behind the apocalypse. It seemed the system wasn't giving information randomly. It already knew certain secrets. Where is he now? I asked. Su Qing shook her head. I don't know. On the day the disaster happened, he entered the deep-sea base with part of the research data. After that, all contact was lost. Chen Feng looked at the photograph. So we're going there to find him? I didn't answer immediately. The situation was already clear. The Deep-Sea Zero Project was the center of all these mysteries. But that place was also extremely dangerous. The ocean after the apocalypse was no longer the ocean we once knew. Unknown areas meant death. Just then, the system suddenly sounded. Special mission detected. Mission objective. Locate the Deep-Sea Zero base. Mission reward. Unlock Advanced Fishing Zone. My eyes changed. Advanced Fishing Zone. Those words were impossible to ignore. Right now, I could only fish in nearby waters. The resources I obtained were powerful. But if I wanted to truly build my own force, it was far from enough. A larger ocean would mean more opportunities. We're going. I spoke. Chen Feng looked at me. Are you sure? I nodded. Yes. Su Qing looked at me. Do you know how dangerous that place is? I know. You might not come back. I know that too. I looked at the fishing rod in my hand. But if we keep hiding here, eventually, the ocean will swallow us anyway. Chen Feng smiled. I like your decision. At least it's better than waiting to die. Over the next few hours, we began preparing. With the energy core, I activated the base module according to the system instructions. A blue holographic screen appeared inside the cabin. Construction area detected. Activate initial ocean base? I selected confirm. The next moment, the ship began to transform. The old damaged hull started expanding. Metal structures extended automatically. The deck area increased. New spaces appeared inside the cabin. Although it was still simple, it now possessed basic survival capabilities. Chen Feng stood nearby, completely stunned. Is this still a ship? I smiled slightly. The transformation had only just begun. With the technology from the system, this broken vessel would eventually become something far beyond anyone's imagination. Su Qing examined the newly transformed ship. Her eyes were filled with complexity. This technology doesn't belong to the level of humanity today. I looked at her. What do you think it is? She lowered her voice. Perhaps it came from that deep-sea ruin. I didn't continue asking, because there was something more important now. We needed supplies, and we needed to head toward the deep-sea region. The next morning, I prepared to fish again. The system notification appeared. Current area's resources have decreased. Recommendation: move to a new area. I put away the fishing rod. Just as we were preparing to leave, the ocean suddenly began releasing countless bubbles. Chen Feng immediately became alert. Something is underneath us. I walked to the edge of the deck. The water surface became increasingly abnormal. The next second, a massive tentacle suddenly burst out of the ocean. It slammed heavily toward the base. Boom! The entire ship shook violently. Su Qing almost fell. Chen Feng immediately grabbed the railing. Mutated sea beast. I stared at the enormous tentacle. This was not an ordinary creature. The system quickly scanned it. Target: deep-sea giant octopus beast. Level: dangerous. Recommendation: avoid direct confrontation. I frowned. Avoid? But it had already attacked us. There was no way to retreat. A second tentacle struck again. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. Then an idea suddenly appeared in my mind. The system wasn't only able to fish for resources. Maybe I could fish this creature. The thought was insane. But in the apocalypse, insanity often meant opportunity. I immediately cast the fishing line. Chen Feng froze. Lin Yuan, what are you doing? I didn't answer. The hook crossed the surface. It landed accurately near the giant octopus beast. The next second, the system notification appeared. Target locked. Fishing in progress. The entire ocean suddenly became silent. The giant octopus beast seemed to sense danger. It began struggling violently. The entire sea area started surging. The base was dragged forward continuously. I held the fishing rod tightly. The muscles in my arm bulged. This time, I wasn't facing a resource. I was facing a true ruler of the ocean. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. Just when I felt the fishing rod was about to break, the system finally spoke. Fishing successful. Obtained. Deep-sea beast core. Obtained. Advanced mutated material. Obtained. Unknown biological information. The enormous tentacles slowly sank back into the ocean. The waves gradually calmed. And on my deck, there was now a black crystal core. Su Qing stared at the crystal. Her expression changed instantly. This thing. What about it? Her voice became serious. It has the same energy structure as the energy studied in the Zero Project. I held the crystal tightly. At that moment, I finally understood. My fishing rod was slowly leading me toward the secret hidden beneath the ocean, and the deep-sea Zero base was getting closer and closer. After the disappearance of the deep-sea beast, the ocean returned to a brief moment of calm. But my uneasiness only grew stronger. The black crystal core was placed inside a metal container. Su Qing kept staring at it. From her expression, this thing had shocked her even more than the giant octopus beast itself. You recognize it? I asked. Su Qing didn't answer immediately. She walked to the metal container and carefully examined the patterns on the surface of the crystal. I've seen this structure in my teacher's research files. The Zero Project once studied a similar energy source, but according to the experimental records, this type of energy was extremely unstable. Chen Feng frowned. What does that mean? Su Qing looked up. It means it contains enormous energy, but it could also cause a disaster. I looked at the crystal in my hand. So the ocean mutations are related to this? Su Qing did not deny it. Very likely, but I still can't confirm everything. She took up the photograph of the deep-sea base. If we can find Professor Shen Hanchuan, only then can we know the truth. I nodded. The goal was already clear. Find the deep-sea Zero base. Find Shen Hanchuan. Discover how this ocean apocalypse truly began. However, before we left, there was one problem I had to solve. The Black Tide Alliance. Zhao Tianheng would never give up easily. Just as expected, that night, the system suddenly issued a warning. Hostile targets approaching. Number of targets, 3 ships. I walked onto the deck. 3 lights appeared in the distance. Chen Feng picked up his weapon. They're here. Su Qing looked into the distance. Zhao Tianheng? I shook my head. Not necessarily. Soon, a voice came through the communicator. Lin Yuan, come out and talk. That voice. I had heard it before. Han Lai. I activated the communicator. What do you want? Han Lai was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. Zhao Tianheng asked me to deliver a message. Your ability has already attracted the attention of many people. Hand over the fishing rod while you still have the chance. I laughed softly. And if I refuse? The communicator was silent for several seconds. Then Han Lai replied, you will become everyone's target. I looked at the ships in the distance. So today you came here to threaten me? No, Han Lai answered. I'm warning you. Zhao Tianheng is not as simple as he appears. That surprised me. Han Lai didn't sound like he was provoking me. It sounded more like a genuine warning. Why tell me? I asked. Han Lai didn't answer. He only said, because I don't like owing people. You spared my life last time. This is me paying you back. The communication ended. The 3 ships did not attack. They slowly turned and left. Chen Feng watched them disappear. There's something strange about this Han Lai. I nodded. He doesn't completely obey Zhao Tianheng, Su Qing said. Any large organization will have different voices inside it. Zhao Tianheng wants to control all resources, but not everyone under him will agree with his methods. I looked at the ocean. At that moment, I realized something. After the apocalypse, the most complicated thing was not the ocean. It was people. The next day, we officially began traveling toward the deep sea region. With the energy core, the speed of the ocean base increased dramatically. Tang Rou still hadn't joined us, but the basic modules provided by the system gave the base automatic repair capabilities. Chen Feng stood at the control area. He sighed. If someone had told me before that a broken ship could become something like this, I would have thought they were crazy. I smiled. What about now? He thought for a moment. Now I think, this world isn't crazy enough yet. After saying that, he laughed himself. Along the way, we encountered several mutated creatures, but with the upgraded equipment, we successfully avoided them. 3 days later, the system notification appeared. Entering unknown waters. Detecting large amounts of special energy reactions. I looked ahead. A sea area covered in thick fog appeared before us. According to the map, this place had once been one of the world's largest marine research zones. Now, it had become an abandoned area. Su Qing took out her equipment. She began scanning the surroundings. A few minutes later, her expression changed. There are artificial structures here. Chen Feng froze. Underwater? Su Qing nodded. Yes, they are right below us. My eyes fell on the ocean surface. At the same time, the system displayed a notification. Deep sea ruin entrance discovered. Conditions for unlocking advanced fishing zone fulfilled. Enter? I didn't hesitate. Confirm. The next moment, a light screen appeared above the ocean. Advanced fishing zone unlocked. Reward. Advanced fishing authority. Higher level resources can now be obtained. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. A new ability meant new opportunities. But at that moment, the sound of engines suddenly came from the distance. Not one ship, an entire fleet. Chen Feng raised the binoculars. His face changed. Lin Yuan, it's the Black Tide Alliance. I looked over. Across the ocean, more than a dozen modified warships were approaching. At the front, on the largest battleship, stood Zhao Tianheng. This time, he was no longer here to negotiate. Behind him, heavy weapons were mounted. Zhao Tianheng picked up a loudspeaker. His voice spread across the ocean. Lin Yuan, I gave you a chance. Now, I will personally take back what belongs to me. I looked at his fleet. Their numbers, their equipment, their firepower. Everything was far beyond our previous encounter. Chen Feng lowered his voice. This is trouble. Su Qing clenched her fists. They know we found the zero base. I understood. What Zhao Tianheng truly wanted was never just my fishing rod. It was the secret behind it. I stood on the deck, watching the Black Tide fleet approach. Then I picked up my fishing rod. Everyone, prepare for battle. Chen Feng looked at me. How do we fight? I looked at the ocean. The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. They have ships. We have the ocean. The next second, I cast the hook into the sea. The target was not Zhao Tianheng. It was the deep sea itself. Because I knew the things hidden here were enough to turn this battle around. The moment the fishing hook entered the ocean, the entire sea area changed. The originally calm water suddenly began to surge violently. A massive whirlpool formed beneath the surface. The ships of the Black Tide Alliance immediately slowed down. Everyone stared at the strange phenomenon happening in front of them. Even Zhao Tianheng's expression changed. What is he doing? No one could answer him, because no one had ever seen a fishing method like this. Fishing in the ocean was already ridiculous enough, but using a fishing rod to face an entire sea area, that was beyond everyone's understanding. On my ship, Chen Feng looked at me nervously. Lin Yuan, are you sure this will work? I held the fishing rod tightly. No. Chen Feng was stunned. No? I looked at the violently shaking ocean. But I know one thing. The system has never failed me. The next second, the fishing lines suddenly tightened. A terrifying force came from the depths of the sea. The entire base began moving toward the center of the whirlpool. Su Qing grabbed the railing. What's beneath us? I didn't answer, because even the system was still analyzing. Unknown target detected. Energy level exceeds current analysis limit. Continuing detection. Unknown. Even the system couldn't immediately identify it. This was the first time. My expression became serious. The things hidden in this ocean were far beyond what I had imagined. On Zhao Tianheng's battleship, everyone watched in silence. One of his subordinates lowered his voice. "Boss, should we attack now?" Zhao Tianheng didn't respond. His eyes remained fixed on the fishing line. After a long silence, he slowly said, "Wait." The subordinate was confused. "Wait." Zhao Tianheng's expression was complicated. "Do you think a person who can create this kind of situation will have no backup plan?" The subordinate fell silent. Zhao Tianheng had survived until now because he was cautious. He never underestimated his enemies. And that was exactly why he was dangerous. The ocean continued shaking. The fishing rod in my hand became heavier and heavier. My arms began to ache. The strength coming from beneath the sea was unimaginable. Even after the system enhanced my body, I still felt pressure. This thing. What exactly is it? I gritted my teeth. The system finally responded. Analysis complete. Target identified. Ancient deep-sea guardian creature. Danger level. Extreme. Value assessment. Unknown. Recommendation. Continue fishing. My heartbeat accelerated. Ancient creature? Extreme danger level? Unknown value? This was the first time the system had given such an evaluation. But instead of fear, I felt excitement. Because I knew, the greater the danger, the greater the reward. I adjusted my grip. "Come out. Let me see what has been hiding beneath this ocean." The fishing line suddenly pulled downward. The entire ocean exploded. A huge shadow slowly emerged from the deep sea. At first, everyone thought it was a mountain. Then they realized. It was a creature. A massive shell covered with ancient patterns. 8 enormous limbs extending hundreds of meters. A pair of golden eyes opened beneath the waves. The entire black tide fleet froze. Someone dropped their weapon. "What? What is that?" Zhao Tianheng's face turned pale for the first time, because even he understood. This creature was something that human weapons could barely fight against. The ancient guardian slowly rose. The waves created by its movement pushed the surrounding ships backward. My fishing rod trembled violently. The system notification appeared. Target resisting. Strength comparison. Host insufficient. Special ability activated. Ocean Fishing Authority activated. At that moment, the fishing rod in my hand released a dazzling light. The ancient creature suddenly stopped moving. The entire ocean became silent. Then, something unbelievable happened. The creature lowered its head. It looked directly at me. Not with anger, not with hostility, but with recognition. Su Qing's eyes widened. "How is this possible?" "What?" She stared at the creature. Ancient deep-sea creatures. They should not recognize humans. I looked at the fishing rod. A strange thought appeared in my mind. Maybe this fishing rod wasn't created to capture these creatures. Maybe it was created to communicate with them. The next second, the system notification appeared. Special interaction triggered. Ancient deep-sea guardian recognizes host. Reward obtained. Ancient biological gene sample. Deep-sea navigation map. Unknown technology fragment. I stared at the rewards. Then suddenly, the ancient creature moved. It turned toward the black tide fleet. The golden eyes locked onto Zhao Tianheng's battleship. The atmosphere instantly changed. Zhao Tianheng's expression became extremely ugly, because he finally understood. The creature that he feared was now standing on my side. I looked at the approaching black tide fleet. Then I looked at the ancient guardian beside me. The corner of my mouth lifted. "Zhao Tianheng, you wanted to know what my trump card was. Now, I'll show you." The moment my voice fell, the ancient guardian moved. Its enormous body slowly rose from the ocean. The waves around it surged like a wall of water. The black tide fleet immediately became chaotic. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" The people on Zhao Tianheng's ships shouted in panic. They had come here prepared for a battle. They had brought weapons. They had brought numbers. They had brought enough firepower to destroy an ordinary survivor fleet. But all of those preparations became meaningless in front of this ancient creature. This was a force that belonged to the ocean itself. Zhao Tianheng stood on the deck of his battleship. His face was extremely dark. He stared at me. At this moment, he finally understood. The biggest mistake he had made was treating me as an ordinary survivor. "Lin Yuan, who exactly are you?" His voice carried across the ocean. I looked at him calmly. "A survivor, just like everyone else." Zhao Tianheng laughed. But there was no anger in his laughter, only helplessness. "Impossible. Someone like you cannot appear in this apocalypse by accident." I didn't answer, because even I didn't know the full truth. The fishing system, the mysterious rod, the ocean mutations, the Deep Sea Zero project. Everything was connected, but the final answer was still hidden somewhere beneath the ocean. The ancient guardian suddenly let out a deep roar. The sound shook the entire sea. The black tide fleet began retreating. No one dared to stay. Even Zhao Tianheng had to make a choice. Leave, or die. Before leaving, he looked at me one last time. Lin Yuan, this isn't over. The secrets beneath the ocean. Everyone will fight for them. I watched his fleet disappear into the fog. I knew he was right. The battle today was only the beginning. The true struggle had not yet started. After the black tide fleet left, the ancient guardian slowly approached my ship. Chen Feng stood there completely stunned. I can't believe what I just saw. Su Qing looked at the creature. Her eyes were filled with shock. Ancient deep-sea guardian creatures. They existed only in theoretical records. How could one appear here? I looked at the fishing rod. The answer was probably hidden here. The creature lowered its massive head. A strange energy flowed toward the deck. The system immediately responded. Ancient biological energy transfer detected. Receiving data. Data integration complete. Obtained. Deep-sea evolution map. I froze. A map? The next second, a three-dimensional image appeared in my mind. Countless areas of the ocean appeared. Danger zones, resource zones, unknown regions. And at the deepest part of the map, there was a marked location. Deep Sea Zero Base. Su Qing saw my expression. What happened? I looked at her. We found it. Her breathing stopped. The Zero Base? I nodded. The coordinates from the photograph. The information from the system. The map from the ancient guardian. All the clues pointed toward the same location. The center of the apocalypse. 2 days later, we arrived near the location marked on the map. The surrounding ocean was completely different from ordinary areas. The water was dark. The waves were strangely calm. There were no mutated creatures nearby. No birds. No floating debris. It felt like the entire ocean was avoiding this place. Chen Feng looked around. This place. It's too quiet. Su Qing's expression was serious. Because this area is probably the most dangerous place in the entire ocean. I stood at the front of the ship. The system began scanning. Deep Sea Zero Base detected. Distance 3000 meters. Current condition damaged. Remaining energy 12%. My eyes narrowed. It really existed. The base that had disappeared for so long was still here. But before we could approach, the ocean suddenly trembled. A warning appeared. High-level life form detected. Multiple targets approaching. I looked down. Several enormous shadows appeared beneath our ship. 1, 2, 10. More than 10 creatures were surrounding us. Su Qing's face changed. These are experimental creatures from the Zero Project. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. So the secret of the Deep Sea Zero Base was not only about the apocalypse. It was also about the creatures guarding it. The ocean began to boil. The creatures started moving closer. Chen Feng raised his weapon. Lin Yuan, can we fight them? I looked at the dark ocean, then at the fishing rod in my hand. A thought appeared. Maybe, this time, I didn't need to fight. I slowly lifted the fishing rod. The system notification appeared. Advanced fishing zone activated. New function unlocked. Life form fishing. My eyes changed. Life form fishing? The next second, I cast the hook. The target was the entire group of mutated creatures. The ocean fell silent. And then, the system sounded. Multiple targets locked. Beginning special fishing process. Warning. Target resistance extremely high. Recommended. Continue. I held the fishing rod tightly. A smile slowly appeared on my face. Because I finally understood. The true power of the Doomsday fishing system had only just begun to reveal itself. The moment the fishing hook entered the ocean, the entire deep-sea area fell into silence. The mutated creatures surrounding the ship stopped moving. They seemed to sense something unusual. Unlike ordinary fishing, this time I wasn't targeting resources. I was targeting living creatures. The system had never allowed me to do this before. But after unlocking the advanced fishing zone, everything had changed. Life form fishing initiated. Analyzing targets. Target group detected. Species, deep-sea experimental creatures. Origin, Deep Sea Zero Project. Threat level, high. Value assessment, extremely high. The information appeared one line after another. My eyes narrowed. So these creatures were actually created by the Zero Project. The truth behind the apocalypse was becoming clearer. The researchers had not only awakened something in the deep sea, They had also created countless experimental life forms, and these creatures were the products of those experiments. The ocean suddenly shook violently. The creatures began resisting. The largest one opened its enormous mouth. A terrifying sound wave spread through the water. The entire ship trembled. Chen Feng covered his ears. What kind of monster is that? Su Qing's expression changed. That is a failed experimental subject. According to the research records, those creatures should have been destroyed. I looked at the giant creature. Destroyed? Su Qing nodded. Yes. The Zero Project classified them as uncontrollable. All experimental subjects were supposed to be eliminated. I tightened my grip on the fishing rod. But they survived. And now, they are guarding this place. The fishing lines suddenly tightened. The force coming from the ocean was enormous. Even the reinforced base began moving. The system notification appeared. Target resistance detected. Activating special fishing mode. Energy consumption increased. I felt the strength leaving my body. This was completely different from catching ordinary resources. A living creature was fighting back. And this creature was powerful enough to challenge the entire ship. Lin Yuan! Chen Feng shouted. Can you hold on? I didn't answer, because I was concentrating all my attention on the fishing rod. The system had given me this ability. I believed it had a reason. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. The ocean continued raging. The experimental creatures struggled desperately. Suddenly, the system notification changed. Main target weakened. Capture probability increased. Continue? I didn't hesitate. Continue. The next second, the fishing rod released a bright light. The surrounding ocean seemed to freeze. The massive creatures gradually became unable to move. One by one, they were pulled toward the surface. Su Qing watched everything happen. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. This violates everything we know about biology. I smiled slightly. After the apocalypse, maybe the old rules don't matter anymore. The next moment, the system sounded. Fishing successful. Obtained. Experimental creature gene samples. Obtained. Deep sea evolution data. Obtained. Zero Project research records. I froze. Research records? I immediately checked the information. A large amount of data appeared in my mind. The history of the Zero Project. The discovery of the deep sea ruins. The first contact with unknown energy. The mutation experiments. And finally, the disaster. But the most shocking information was at the end. A final research report. Project Zero was not an accident. Humanity did not create the ocean mutation. The mutation was a response. I stared at the words. A response? To what? I continued reading. The final record was written by Shen Hanchuan. 30 days after the first energy activation. The ocean will complete its evolution. All mutated creatures are part of this process. The real danger is not the creatures. It is what will awaken after the evolution is complete. The cabin became completely silent. Chen Feng swallowed. What does that mean? Su Qing's face turned pale. She whispered, the ocean is evolving. I looked toward the endless sea. For the first time, I felt a real sense of danger. Until now, I thought the apocalypse was caused by a disaster. But now I understood. The apocalypse might only be the beginning. The ocean was changing. The world was changing. And something far more terrifying was about to appear. At that moment, the system issued a new notification. Main storyline mission updated. Mission: prevent the final ocean evolution. Mission reward: unlock Ultimate Fishing Authority. I stared at the notification. Ultimate Fishing Authority. The highest level of the system. But the mission itself made me understand something. From the beginning, the system had never only been helping me survive. It had been preparing me for the moment when humanity faced its greatest crisis. I looked at the damaged Deep Sea Zero base in the distance. We're going inside. Chen Feng looked at me. Now? I nodded. The answer is there. Su Qing took a deep breath. Then let's find out what the ocean is hiding. The entrance of the Deep Sea Zero base was hidden beneath thousands of meters of seawater. According to ordinary human technology, reaching this place was almost impossible. But with the upgraded ocean base and the navigation data provided by the Ancient Guardian, we successfully arrived at the entrance. A huge metal structure appeared in front of us. Even after countless years underwater, it still remained intact. The surface was covered with strange symbols. They looked ancient, yet they also carried a sense of advanced technology. Su Qing stared at the structure. Her breathing became heavier. This is it. The Deep Sea Zero base. Her voice trembled slightly. The place she had searched for. The place where her teacher disappeared. The place connected to the beginning of the apocalypse. It was finally right in front of us. Chen Feng looked around carefully. Is anyone still alive inside? Su Qing shook her head. I don't know. But if the base still has energy, there may still be a chance. I walked to the entrance. The system immediately responded. Unknown technology structure detected. Analyzing. Technology level exceeds current database. Attempting connection. A few seconds later, a mechanical voice suddenly echoed. Identity verification required. Unknown user detected. Beginning security protocol. The metal door slowly opened. Cold air rushed out from inside. After being buried beneath the ocean for years, the base was still operating. This was impossible, at least according to normal logic. But after everything I had experienced, I had already accepted that this world no longer followed normal rules. We entered the base. The interior was completely different from what I imagined. There were no collapsed corridors, no destroyed laboratories. Everything looked like the researchers had only left moments ago. Lights flickered. Machines continued running. The only difference was that no one was here. Su Qing walked ahead. Her eyes moved across the familiar environment. I've been here before, but this place feels different. I looked at her. What do you mean? She frowned. The layout has changed. The original research areas were not arranged like this. Chen Feng immediately became alert. Someone changed the base? Su Qing nodded slowly. Or, something changed the base. The atmosphere became heavier. We continued deeper. Soon, we reached the central laboratory. The door was locked. In front of it, there was a scanning device. The moment Su Qing approached, the machine suddenly activated. Researcher identification detected. Identity confirmed. Welcome back, Dr. Su Qing. Everyone froze. Su Qing stepped back. You still remember me? The mechanical voice continued, recording previous events. Research team members. Deceased or missing. Current survival probability. Extremely low. Emergency information available. The huge screen in the laboratory suddenly lit up. A video file began playing. A middle-aged man appeared. His face was tired. His eyes were filled with exhaustion, but I immediately recognized him. Shen Hanchuan, Su Qing's teacher. The person who knew the truth behind the apocalypse. Professor Shen, Su Qing whispered. The video began. If you are seeing this message, that means the Zero Project has failed. Shen Hanchuan looked directly at the camera. The ocean mutation was not caused by our experiment. We misunderstood the energy source. The deep-sea ruins we discovered were not a source of power. They were a warning. Everyone became silent. A warning? Shen Hanchuan continued. Humanity has always believed that Earth belongs to us. But we were wrong. The ocean has existed far longer than human civilization, and the things sleeping beneath it are not something we can control. The video paused briefly. Then Shen Hanchuan revealed the most important information. The Zero Project activated a process that had already existed for millions of years. The ocean's evolution. 30 days after activation, the final stage will begin. When that happens, a new ocean civilization will awaken. The screen flickered. The image became unstable. Before the video ended, Shen Hanchuan left one final sentence. Do not try to defeat it. Find a way to coexist. The video disappeared. The laboratory became completely silent. Chen Feng was the first to speak. So, the enemy isn't the ocean? Su Qing looked at the black screen. Her expression was complicated. The ocean itself may only be following its natural process. I lowered my head, thinking about everything that had happened. The mutated creatures, the ancient guardian, the energy cores, the fishing system. Maybe all of this was part of a larger cycle. At that moment, the system suddenly sounded. Final evolution countdown detected. Remaining time, 72 hours. My expression changed. Only 3 days? The system continued. Ultimate Fishing Authority conditions updated. Requirement: reach the center of ocean evolution. Requirement: establish connection with the awakened life form. I looked at the notification, then at the endless ocean outside the base. 3 days. The final evolution would begin. And before that, I had to uncover the final secret of this world. The countdown continued. 72 hours. That was all the time left before the final ocean evolution began. I stood inside the Deep Sea Zero base, looking at the countless research records displayed on the screen. For the first time, I felt the weight of this mission. Before this moment, my goal had always been simple: survive, gather resources, become stronger. But now, the situation had changed completely. If the ocean evolution was truly unstoppable, then every survivor on Earth would face the same fate. This was no longer just about me. It was about humanity's future. Chen Feng looked at me. Lin Yuan, what are we going to do? I remained silent for a moment. Then I looked at the huge map displayed on the laboratory screen, the center point of the ocean evolution. That was our next destination. We go there. Chen Feng took a deep breath. I knew you would say that. Su Qing looked at the information left by Shen Hanchuan. There is one problem. I turned toward her. What? She pointed at the map. The center of the evolution is located in the deepest part of the ocean. Even the Zero Project never reached that area. According to the research data, nothing that enters there has ever returned. I looked at the location. The deepest ocean region. A place humanity had never truly explored. A place where countless secrets were buried. I smiled slightly. Then we'll be the first ones. Before leaving the base, we searched through all remaining resources. The Zero base still contained a large amount of advanced equipment. However, most of the systems had been damaged. The only thing we could recover were several special devices. Obtained. Deep-sea pressure shield. Obtained. Energy conversion module. Obtained. Unknown research data. The system continued analyzing the data, but one piece of information caught my attention. A final recording. The creator of the Zero Project had left behind a message. It was not Shen Hanchuan. It was someone else. A researcher named Dr. Mo Yen. The recording started. If someone finds this message, that means the evolution has already begun. The man's expression was extremely serious. We made a mistake. We believed the deep-sea energy was something we could use, but we misunderstood its true nature. The energy was never a resource. It was a signal. My expression changed. A signal? Dr. Mo Yen continued. The energy was attracting something. Something that has been sleeping beneath the ocean for countless years. The awakening of that existence is the true reason for the ocean's evolution. The recording became unstable. Before disappearing, Dr. Mo Yen said one final thing. Remember. Do not become its enemy, because humans are only guests in this ocean. The screen went dark. The laboratory became silent again. Chen Feng swallowed. So, there is something even stronger than those ancient creatures? Su Qing nodded slowly. According to this message, yes. I looked at the ocean outside the base. The ancient guardian, the mutated creatures, the energy cores, all of them were only part of a much larger system, and the true ruler of this ocean was still hidden. At that moment, the system notification appeared. Special item detected. Location: Deep-sea Zero base. Object: Evolution key. My eyes narrowed. Evolution key? I immediately followed the system's guidance. Behind the central laboratory, there was a hidden room. The door had no handle, no lock, only a small groove. The shape was exactly the same as the energy core. I placed the deep-sea energy core into the groove. Boom! The entire base shook. The hidden door slowly opened. Inside, there was only one thing, a silver-white box. The moment I touched it, the system reacted. Special item obtained. Item name: Ocean Evolution Key. Function: Unlock the final evolution pathway. I stared at the item. So this was the key. The thing the Zero Project had spent years searching for. But before I could examine it further, the entire base suddenly sounded an alarm. Warning: External life forms approaching. Number: Unknown. Su Qing looked toward the entrance. They found us? I shook my head. No. The signal came from deeper underwater. Everyone froze. Deeper? Then what was approaching was not the Black Tide Alliance. It was something else. Something from the deepest part of the ocean. The next second, the entire base began shaking violently. A massive shadow appeared outside the glass observation window. It covered the entire ocean. Even the ancient guardian we had encountered before would appear tiny compared to it. Chen Feng's face turned pale. What is that? I looked at the enormous shadow. The system slowly displayed information. Target detected. Analysis incomplete. Exceeds current limit. Name: Unknown Ocean Sovereign. Warning: Do not provoke. My expression became serious. For the first time since obtaining the system, I saw a warning like this. The creature outside the base slowly opened its eyes. The entire deep sea lit up. Then, a voice entered my mind. Not through sound, through consciousness. Human, why do you carry the mark of the ocean? I froze. The creature could communicate. And the next sentence made my heart stop. That fishing rod. Who gave it to you? The deep sea became completely silent. The enormous creature outside the observation window stared at me. Its eyes were like two ancient stars buried beneath the ocean. Just one glance made me feel an overwhelming pressure. This was not a creature that belonged to ordinary biology. It was an existence that had survived for countless years. I slowly raised my fishing rod. The creature's attention immediately focused on it. The mark of the ocean. What does that mean? I asked. The voice inside my mind remained calm. You do not know? Then you are only a chosen one. A chosen one? My expression changed. Who chose me? The creature did not answer immediately. Instead, a wave of energy passed through the entire deep sea's zero base. The damaged machines began operating again. Countless images appeared on the screens. Ancient oceans, unknown civilizations, massive creatures moving beneath the waves, and a figure holding a fishing rod. My breathing stopped, because that figure looked exactly like me. The creature spoke again. Long before humans appeared, the ocean had already experienced countless cycles of evolution. Every cycle required a guide, someone who could communicate with the ocean, someone who could maintain balance. I looked at the fishing rod in my hand. So this rod, is it a tool left behind by the previous guide? The creature's eyes moved slightly. Yes. It has existed longer than your civilization. It was never created to control the ocean. It was created to understand it. I remained silent. Everything finally started connecting. The fishing system, the fishing rod, the ancient guardian, the evolution process. None of these were random. The system had brought me here from the very beginning, not just to survive, but to continue a mission that had existed for countless years. At that moment, a new notification appeared. Hidden truth discovered. Origin of Doomsday Fishing System revealed. The system is an inheritance mechanism of ocean civilization. Final mission unlocked. Mission: restore the balance between humanity and the ocean. I stared at the notification. The final mission: restore balance. Not destroy the ocean. Not defeat it, but coexist. The giant creature slowly moved closer. The pressure around it disappeared. For the first time, I felt no hostility from it, only ancient exhaustion. Human. The ocean has entered its final evolution. The old balance has been destroyed. Your species has two choices. I looked at it. What choices? The creature answered. Fight, or evolve together. The entire base became silent. Chinfeng looked at me. Su Qing lowered her head, thinking about everything she had learned. Humanity had always viewed the ocean as an enemy, a place to conquer, a resource to exploit. But perhaps that was the original mistake. I looked at the ocean evolution key in my hand, then at the fishing rod. I choose the third option. The creature's eyes changed slightly. Third option? I nodded. Neither surrender nor destruction. Humans will find a way to survive while changing ourselves, together with the ocean. For a long time, the creature remained silent. Then, a powerful wave of energy spread across the deep sea. Recognition confirmed. New ocean authority granted. Ultimate fishing authority unlocked. The system notification appeared. Congratulations, host. You have reached the final stage. All fishing limitations removed. You may now fish any target in the ocean. I looked at the new ability. Any target. At that moment, I finally understood the true meaning of the system. The strongest power was never the ability to obtain resources. It was the ability to connect everything. Resources, creatures, technology, life itself. The creature slowly moved away, before disappearing into the darkness. It left one final message. The final evolution begins in 24 hours. Human, show the ocean what kind of future your species deserves. 24 hours later, the entire world changed. The ocean began rising again. Massive waves swept across the planet. Countless mutated creatures emerged from the depths. Every survivor looked toward the endless sea in fear. The final evolution had begun. But this time, humanity was no longer helpless. Across the ocean, a new type of vessel appeared. It was no longer an ordinary survival ship. It was an ocean fortress. A base built with advanced technology. At the center of the deck, I stood holding the fishing rod. Behind me, Chinfeng controlled the defense system. Su Qing analyzed the evolution data. Thousands of survivors who had joined us prepared for the final battle. The Black Tide Alliance also appeared. But Zhao Tianheng was different this time. He no longer came as an enemy. He looked at the ocean in silence. Then he spoke. Lin Yuan, I finally understand. The thing we fought over was never the resource. It was the future. I looked toward the horizon. The ocean was changing, the world was changing, and humanity's next chapter was about to begin. I raised the fishing rod. The hook entered the sea. This time, I wasn't fishing for survival. I was fishing for the future.